So over in Nuke, now we can import our renders. So I will press R. And first I want to import my ground render. So double click to open this. And I will press S while not having anything selected, so press S, and we can go to the colors, and you can see that my OCIO config is set to ACES 1.2. So by default, the newest version of Redshift will export all of your renders in the ACES format. So you have to make sure that when you start the new project in Nuke, that it is using this OCIO config ACES 1.2 or whatever version your Redshift is working with. Alright, and let's split this up into our AOVs, and I will drop a shuffle from here, and inside this shuffle, inside this node, I can set the label to be value in 1 in between brackets, and this will now give me a title here for our shuffle as well. So when I, for example, selected my shuffle, our diffuse pass, the diffuse will show up here as a title. Alright, and I will make a dot here by using control and bring this over, and I want to separate the other passes as well, so I will grab this and press Alt-C to create a duplicate, and I will plug this here, and this will be my specular. And then I can merge these two together, so from this diffuse node I will press M, bring down a merge, and just merge these over here. And hold down control and bring a new dot and place this here. And now for this merge, I will set the operation to be plus. And I can drop down a grade, so now I can affect the diffuse. And I will just drop down the gain and maybe increase the gamma. And for my specular, let's maybe just preview this and maybe decrease the gamma and just create a little bit more contrast with this. And let's preview our merge. And we will need to add the other layers as well in order to judge the grading for the ground a little bit better. So I'm not gonna spend too much time on grading the ground for now, but I will also maybe give this a blue tint as well. So maybe after this grade, I usually like to do all of my grading. I will use one grade node for the value and one grade node for the color itself. So for the second grade, I will just go to my multiply and switch to my color channels, and I will just increase the overall blue color and maybe decrease the red a little bit. And I will do the same thing for my specular. So let's maybe just go to the multiply and just add a little bit of blue and get rid of the red. So now when I preview this merged, let's maybe let's leave this as it is for now and set up the rest of our nodes here. Let's also go ahead and import our particles. So let's press R, grab the particles. So for my particles, I will just merge this on top of my ground. So I will press M and I will bring this over here and plug this here and just do another dot here and keep things a little bit more organized. And this will be a merge operation. So I will leave this merge operation at over. And by default, we can see that this kind of works. Of course, we will have to set the color for these. Let's first make a little room here and create another node here by holding control. And I want to grab one of these shuffle nodes, and I will just paste one of these here and plug this here. And I want to shuffle out from my pop render. Let's shuffle out our shadow pass. Okay, and maybe make some more room. So this is our shadows. These are only the shadows that our particles are placing on the ground geometry. So from this I will drop down an invert. And if I just press M and merge this in our main chain over here, and maybe I'll make some room and do another node over here, and let's spread this out a little bit more. If I preview our merge result from here, so the shadows, let's preview this, and I will set this operation to be multiply. Alright, so if I turn this on and off, we can see that we are adding the shadows of our particles. So when I preview the entire merge with the beauty pass as well, we now have the geometry of the particles that we can control, and we also have the shadows. So we can also turn this on and off over here. And we can kind of see the shadows below our particle geometry. And for example, what I could do here is I could drop down a grade node and I could increase or decrease the gamma, and this would affect the shadows that the particles give us. So we can either increase the contrast or decrease the contrast to accentuate this shadow a little more. I will just get rid of this grade node and I will just leave this as default because the default settings should be okay. And let's drop a grade over here for our beauty pass, and let's just adjust the color a little bit. So we want to drop down the gain and maybe increase the gamma and drop down the gain until the value sort of matches, and drop down another grade that I will use for the color, and let's just increase the blue value for this and get rid of some of this red. And maybe I want actually to introduce a little bit of red. And maybe drop the overall gain and make this really dark. So it should look something a little bit more like dirt. Maybe go back to my ground and just adjust the blue value a little bit. Alright. And for these particles I would like some motion blur, and let's just add a motion blur node. We will be adding a motion blur over all of the elements, so when we add the rest of our elements we will add a final motion blur on top of everything, but just for these particles I would like to add a separate motion blur pass. So for this motion blur node, let's set the shutter samples to maybe 9 and maybe just decrease the shutter time to 0.3. So we just want a little bit of motion blur. So let's see if I turn this on and off. Maybe choose another frame. So we just add a little bit of motion blur to this. Let's maybe just increase this shutter time to maybe 0.5. Alright, and this will be fine. So let's preview this.